I was never going to be the biggest, never going to be the strongest, but my goal was to always be the one that somebody remember. I'm over the top. I don't want to be the same as everybody else. I want to be the first Kurt. Highlight of my wrestling career. We executed flawlessly. That was actually 2 years in the making, man. And Ron Zombie versus myself and the Torrington Executioner, who was Nick Barberri. You have to be very careful. My last match was Brian Anthony with Jimmy Hart versus me. Couldn't have gone any better. My favorite bell-to-bell match was my last one, Family Show. A show that a family can come together with their friends and enjoy together. I wanted to bring the best of Disney and experience to wrestling. Chris, my life was never the same after that backdrop.
Ladies and gentlemen, hosted by Coach C, Chris Sanders, this is Best for Business.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Episode 100 of Best for Business. I'm so pumped for this one. Kurt Adonis, man, thank you so much for joining me for this one.
It is an honor. Congratulations, Chris. Episode 100. Man, you are a hustler, and I love everything about you, man.
Thank you. I was trying to think back the first time I met you. I think it was at a New England Fan Fest. I'm pretty sure I was working the Fan Fest with you. You were working on the Dennis Rodman line, and you let me cut everyone to meet him. So thank you for everything. And then getting to commentate shows with you, it's been great, man. So thank you.
Man, that Dennis Rodman experience. I've worked with a lot of talent at conventions, and he has been the most challenging. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So when we talk pro wrestling, I'm curious for you, before everything, what is it about pro wrestling that you love about it that you eventually want to get involved with?
Wow, I didn't know pro wrestling existed until my neighbor. Now, I grew up in a family where we didn't have like cable and pop culture. Like we didn't really listen to a lot of music, but my neighbor turned me on to WrestleMania 3. He had the Coliseum video of WrestleMania 3, and between the six-man tag, the athleticism of Steamboat and Savage, turning my young head away when Hercules got Billy Jack Haynes, and of course Hogan and Andre. I was hooked. I remember going home that night and saying, I love pro wrestling. And my dad was just like, no, you don't. It's garbage. And so I would have to sneak it from there and follow from my friend's perspective.
Wow. So then when you make the step eventually, well, first, before pro wrestling, your journey's pretty unique. I love it. So what's your first step? Because obviously we're going to talk about wrestling character, has a lot of moving parts, and it's from your previous careers you've learned a thing or two. So for you, what is like your original goals growing up, I guess?
I really didn't know.
Okay.
I was fascinated by computers, but like in the back of my mind, I'm like, I always want to be involved in wrestling. And in later on, I would learn, through the mental health of or the best mental health that Walt Disney Company could afford. It was my escape from reality. Wrestling was truly my escape from reality, and it still is
Yeah.
to a degree. I always wanted to be involved somehow, and here we are. Fast forward 27, almost 28 years later, I can do literally every job on your show to the highest level of professionalism and excellence, and that's a unique capability.
Yeah. When you posted that graphic, obviously you posted your resume, everything you've done, but I'm curious for you. Obviously, ESPN is huge for your career. You started with ESPN, everything. Is there like a moment or two that sticks out from your time? Obviously, there's a lot, but is there anything that sticks out, you think?
Because I started off at ESPN as an intern,
Okay.
right out of college, making $6 an hour. And now the Walt Disney program company has this amazing internship program where they poach talent from around the world. At the time here, it was, here, come work for a help desk. And I did that. I worked for the technology help desk. And within being at the right place at the right time, I literally just jumped into the unique positions to where I was in a leadership position in charge of huge initiatives. Now, I was the project manager for the Sports Center set,
Nice.
meaning I oversaw everything from the scenic to the technology to the lighting. It all passed through me, the budget, creating the project plan, like late nights, weekends, testing all of this equipment that's never been done before. I've had the opportunity to project manage set build for Around the Horn, Pardon the Interruption, that show with Coffee down in Miami, which was hilarious. The NFL studios and work with all the talent. So
Nice.
I was able to cross over working with television talent to the talent of professional wrestling seamlessly.
Nice.
And on the flip side, working for the Walt Disney Company, if anybody spoke to me in that company in the same tone that I was spoken to in professional wrestling, I mean, I would be a millionaire because I could sue them.
Yeah.
But that's never been the case. And ESPN and Disney did me very well. I
Nice.
was there for 22 years. I live in Bristol, Connecticut. I was born in Bristol, Connecticut. So here you are, you got, ESPN right down the street. And, of course, every little boy's dream is to work there.
Yeah.
So I was able to check that box and the wrestling box. I guess I'm doing all right.
Yeah, so when you talk about checking the wrestling box, obviously one name sticks out, Nick Barberri. So I'm curious for you, when you look at Nick and training for pro wrestling, or even nowadays, what are some of the biggest lessons you think you've learned from him?
Everything.
Yeah.
Nick. So the first time I ever saw Nick, it was the second time I ever went to a WWF show. They were performing at St. Paul High School in Bristol, Connecticut, and Bam Bam Bigelow could not be there. They had a note on the door. So filling his spot against Hunter Hearst Helmsley was Nick Barberri.
Nice.
And I got all these pictures of him, and didn't know him. Fast forward a couple years later, his brother and I worked at a local establishment together, and he introduced me to Nick. Now, this is well before cell phones, so I remember writing my phone number down on a napkin, and sure enough, 2 days later, he called me, and we have been best friends since.
Nice.
His most valuable lessons to me is how to be a leader,
Nice.
which has helped me both inside the ring and outside of the ring. And there is a lot of crossover between the pro wrestling world and the corporate world. And if you can take a moment to look at that perspective.
Yeah. So when you look at your career, I'm curious at first, what is like the inspiration for Kurt Adonis?
Crazy enough. So before I met Nick,
Okay.
I was trying to get involved in wrestling, and this is the first time I'm ever telling the story. I got involved in a public access show called Pro Wrestling Insiders, Bad News Bob and Mr. Mike Cuomo. And we would go to local indie shows and interview people, and some of the wrestlers would show me some stuff, but man, I was nowhere near being trained. But there was this company in Connecticut called Connecticut Championship Wrestling, the original. It was run by Baron Banger Toss. Now, this guy was a genius because he would later on go on to creating the Raw card game that held infamy for a very long time. But he took one look at me. He's like, all right, we got to give you a character. What's your name? I'm like, Kurt. You're Purdy Kurty. And he came up with it right on the spot. So I was doing this flamboyant character, totally untrained, or not trained to the level I should have been in there. But he gave me my first chance. And then later on, I would hook up and meet Nick, who would take me to Kevin Landry School and teach me the right way.
Nice. So I'm curious for you, when you look at your career, to you in pro wrestling, what do you consider Kurt Adonis' first big opportunity?
That would have been in February of 2000.
Okay.
Now, Northeast Wrestling this was the night before WWF No Way Out in Hartford, the one with the Hell in the Cell with Mick Foley and Triple H. Now, Northeast Wrestling was running a show in Waterbury. Now, they had Rikishi on the show. Now, this was back in 2000. Like, WWE talent could take select indie bookings, and I was there for a battle royal. And I went upstairs. The main event was scheduled to be Rikishi and Umaga with Big Daddy taking on the Haas brothers, Russ and Charlie. And I came in and I introduced myself to Rikishi, and he's like, "Can you talk, kid?" I said, "Well, what do you need me to say?" "That'll do." And next thing I knew it, I was in the main event with a white hot Rikishi and a sold out crowd where I got bumped by both of them, and that was surreal being in front of 2,500 people.
Mm-hmm.
And that place was rocking when they started dancing at the end. First big break of my life.
I'm curious, did Russ or Charlie not show, or what happened?
No, they were. So I was a manager.
Oh, okay.
So I was put outside the ring.
Nice.
And Big Daddy got to me, and it was a magical moment. I will treasure that forever with Big Daddy, because he at the time he was really close with the Anawahi family
Hmm.
and Yoko, and he's the one that put in a word for me that got me
Nice.
that position. So Big Daddy, thank you very much.
Yeah. When you look at your career, Northeast Wrestling is someplace special to you. I'm curious for you, how does it start for you, Northeast Wrestling?
Well, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times.
Okay.
I used to go to Northeast Wrestling shows when I was in high school and when they were around the local area. Always wanted to get there. And so I met Michael and I helped him a lot with the local flyering, and then I got the opportunity for the Battle Royal, and then he would give other opportunities. I mean, I would pay for the towns and then like, hey, can you go pick up this talent? And that's kind of where those car rides started coming in. And then,
Yeah.
hey, I need you to spend the weekend with so and so. And you know, I always hustled and I was rewarded with, you know, spots on these shows with huge name talent. Incredible. I mean, I go back and look at some of the matches and the experiences, and they were the best I could have ever imagined in my
Nice.
life.
Yeah.
But it came with a price,
Yeah.
and we'll get into that later, I'm sure.
But when we talk about car rides, you sent me the list. Iconic, some of the car rides and experiences you had. If you were to pick, is there like two or three car rides that stick out to you? Maybe you learned the most or experience wise?
Absolutely. And so like let's define cart rides. So
Okay.
like a standard Northeast Wrestling, they would run two shows a weekend. So this would be Chris. I would come pick you up from whichever major airport,
Hmm.
and then we would drive to wherever the show was or the autograph signing was. And then I would, you know, get you there. We'd stop for some food and we would do that show. Then we'd drive to the hotel together and get up and have breakfast together, then drive to the next town, often hours away,
Hmm.
and then back to the airport or back to a hotel. So I really had the opportunity to become close,
Yeah.
very close with a lot of these individuals, and I still am to this day.
Nice.
Bret Hart is fantastic. He once his guard comes down, fantastic. Abyss and Viscera would always make me laugh. Like we would giggle on those car rides.
Nice.
But as far as educational ones, Christian, he would watch my matches and give me the feedback and like detailed feedback, and came to the point where he would, if we were in a different town, I would work under a mask and then I could referee. Christian would ask for me to referee in his matches because he would have these intricate finishes he didn't want messed up. I mean, he would go and put pay-per-view quality matches on in high school gyms. I mean, that's the type of guy Christian Cage is.
Nice. When you look at you in the Indies, there's two companies I want to ask you about. The first one, Assault Championship Wrestling. Is there a moment or memory that sticks out?
Absolutely. So, and that's the Jason Knight. So
Yeah.
beyond my time at Kevin Landry's, which was in Chicopee, Massachusetts, long drives, and I would go 2 to 3 times a week to train. Jason opened up a school in, I think, 2000 in Waterbury, Connecticut, which was 20 minutes from my house. So it was it was much different than the training at Kevin Landry's. You know, Jason worked on discipline, and he's still training now. 61 years old, looks amazing.
Yeah.
But like Balls Mahoney would come in, and I got a chance to wrestle Balls Mahoney. Literally, 9/11 happened on a Tuesday. I'm wrestling him that Saturday
Wow.
in one of the first public gatherings like since, and he had a few Jack and Cokes, and I was fearing for my life.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny, I was actually starting at ESPN the next week, so he goes to me, he's like, so you cut yourself tonight, kid, or am I going to do it for you? And I'm like, whoa, no, I'm starting at ESPN on Monday.
Yeah.
Can we not do? And he's like, oh, sure, kid. And we went out there and actually had like a nice little comedy match. And
Nice.
I see him the next month. He's like, you effing liar. I've been watching ESPN 1 month. I haven't seen you once. And I'm like, no, I work in the IT department. Well, why couldn't you bleed? And so that he would have bringing Kid Cash and a lot of the ECW crossover. And it was Mercedes Martinez came out of that school. Velvet Sky came out of that school. And, you know, between Jason and Dylan Cage and Ron Zombie, you had great trainers.
Nice.
It was a great experience.
Nice. Another company I want to ask you about. What about DPW?
Defiant Pro Wrestling
Yeah.
with kind of a spin-off from there.
Okay.
I'm not sure of the heat that happened there, but Jason and Mike E. Milano went their own ways. Mikey opened a school closer to me, so I ended up helping out there.
Yeah.
And again, great experiences. Certainly not as regimented as Jason's school was, but it was a place for like your Chris Mooches, your Bobby Oceans. You know, that lot of folks came out of there. Jimmy Me is still around managing these days. All came from this Defiant Pro Wrestling. And along those same lines, Nick Barberri was running a Millennium Wrestling Association out of the old Polish home up in Enfield, Connecticut, where is now an amazing facility. But you know, back in 1999, I had the very first match.
Wow.
In that building.
Who was it against?
Holyoke Hogan.
Ah.
Holyoke Joe as Hulk Hogan. It was a comedy match.
Okay,
it was a great
nice.
little starting, and I won, so I can say I won the first ever match in that Thompson Hall.
I love it. One thing I gotta ask you about, obviously watching your old films and then doing commentary with you, the charisma. You have that confidence. So I'm curious for you, for working at ESPN, pro wrestling, no matter what, did you always have that confidence? And if not, how did you gain it?
I was the shyest kid in the world.
Wow.
Socially awkward to the highest degree. I didn't have many friends growing up.
Okay.
So like college was a tough transition for me, and I just realized one day, like through my love of pro wrestling, just go all in on it. You know, don't be timid. What's the worst that someone can do to you? Say no.
Yeah.
So I just started like being more charismatic in like my everyday as almost like a performance to overcome my crippling anxiety. And I guess I'm still like that today. Like everywhere I go, I'm over the top, but I'm also living my best life, and we'll talk more about that later, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that's where I found it when I was in college, and I started in wrestling in my sophomore year in college. So it was not too far from when it finally started clicking for me that I got involved with pro wrestling, and then that brought it to a whole nother level.
Now, I'm curious for you, as somebody who's in college right now, what were your goals for college and like around college? Did you have a goal post college, what you wanted to do?
Fortunately, I had the internship, well, not actually in college. So no, while I was in college, I just wanted to get through. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew it was going to be in technology of some kind. I had the wrestling, which was fantastic. And I've been married twice, and my first wife pretty much told me, like, you can't just sit around all week and wrestle on the weekends. You know, you're a college graduate now, you need to get a job. So I cut my hair. I used to have long hair, at times bleached blonde. And I cut my hair, and that's when I applied for ESPN, got hired there. So from that point on, like, ESPN was always going to be number one, because I'd be crazy to not jump on that opportunity. And wrestling always kind of came second. I was a weekend warrior and happy to do so.
Nice. So when you talk your career, you were telling me about this, but I got to hear your perspective. Tell me about this. Mike Sparta, Rikishi?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, this was infamous for a very long time amongst the independent wrestlers in New England.
Okay.
It was a WWE tryout camp. And back then it was invite, but they would come to a local indie show, and they would run drills. And this one was being done by Simon Dean, Supernova, Mike Bucci.
Yeah.
And so Sparta ran two shows, Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday. I don't remember what it was, but Rikishi did the first show and didn't really do much in his performance. And Mike Sparta felt he didn't get his money's worth out of the investment he made, so told him not to come the second night. So we have our WWE camp, and one of the things they would do is put random matches together. So it's me and Lil Emperor versus Short Sleeve Samson, and I'm not even sure his opponent. Amazing athlete. I remember he came up from Washington D.C. for this, and Short Sleeve's doing his rap, and next thing you know, Mike Sparta's on the microphone. Now he's cutting a promo telling the fans what Rikishi did and how he wasted his money and told them to go screw, and tried to kick him out of the building. Get out of my building. And now the fans start thinking that this is a part of the show, or
Yeah.
Rikishi. So now Rikishi's coming down to the ring, on the other side through the crowd, and Mike Sparta goes under the ring, grabs a wrench, and like threatening. Now Rosie, the superhero, is pulling Rikishi away. Some of the wrestlers are pulling Mike Sparta in the ring, and now at this time, it's the four of us in the ring looking at all of this happen.
Yeah.
Now the back locker room is full of indie wrestlers from all over the country. So one guy had a sword. Now Sparta is grabbing the sword. Now I have video of this. It was sent to me like right at. I was the only one with a copy of this, and I hid it forever because I didn't want the ESPN to ever see it. But then I remember during a dark time in our country, I posted it, and it's out there on YouTube. Mike Sparta tries to kill Rikishi. Check it out.
Yeah.
And then we had to get the match. We had to still go have this match.
Wow.
So I remember getting the feedback. Supernova was in a golf cart, and I sat down next to him, and I said, "So is there anything I could have done differently?" And he just starts giggling, and he's like, "Well, as a vice president for a publicly traded company, I probably would have handled that talent situation much different than Mike Sparta. But you're a good hand kid. You handled yourself professionally. I'm definitely going to bring you into TV."
Nice.
He got fired 2 weeks later.
Wow. When you look at your career, you've done some cool things, but the one that sticks out to me, I talked to indie wrestlers that they say they wish they could do this. I believe it's 2008 PWI 500, number 500. I know people, top 10 is the goal, obviously, but for a lot of indie talent, I think it's like 30s or 40s or 50s, but people want that 500. So for you, how did it feel to get it?
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, I was sitting at ESPN and I was on MySpace because that's what we had at the time. And somebody sent me the list. And I thought it was a rip. I'm like, no way. No way. And I remember picking up the phone and calling Tim Walker, who is a photographer for Pro Wrestling Illustrated. I'm like, "Hey, dude, am I number 500? He's like, "Yep." With a picture, got the magazine right here in my hand.
Nice.
I mean, Chris, you know that. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything better. I mean, I was having the best time of my life. I had worked with Piper previously. I worked with the mayor of Torrington, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And like, I think PWI saw that and like, okay, this guy's the perfect number 500.
Nice.
And I was, and it was an honor, and nobody can ever take it away from me. I kid around because Kurt Angle was number 2. So if he would have beaten out Randy Orton that year, it could have been
Kurt and Kurt.
Full Park by the Kurt.
I love it. So you talk about earlier, you mentioned one name, Roddy Piper. So I'm curious for you, if you wrestled him in the past, how was that experience? And prior to that, you were building a connection with the car rides, I assume?
Absolutely.
Nice.
First chance I got to meet Roddy Piper, we spent a week together. I think he came in Wednesday night, and we were doing so much press because he was coming to do a WrestleFest at my high school.
Nice.
And it was going to be me confronting Roddy Piper and then working with him and in the main event. So we would go and do the radio interviews. We did television, like local news covered this. We had 106.9 WCCC. All the local radio stations had, they couldn't believe Roddy Piper's in their studio. And so you just get to know him. I got to know Colt was with him. So I got to know Colt again, to the hotel, to breakfast, and then by the time that Saturday night came around and it was time for us to work, we sat down with Jerry Lawler. He put everything together for us, and we executed flawlessly. Nice. And it is the highlight of my wrestling career. I remember I sold that sleeper and made people carry me back. When I came through, he just gave me a hug and that big wet kiss on the cheek and said that was great. And we kept in touch right until the end. There were several car rides over the years. I want to say like 6 weekends together. So he after a while, you put your guard down and you start talking about life. And and you don't talk wrestling. Wrestling's all to the side.
Yeah.
And that's where the bonds are made. And I'm very fortunate and have incredible memories with the Hot Rod.
Nice. When you talk about memories, the list goes on and on. I'm curious for you, any memories stand out with Kurt Angle? You talked about could have been Kurt and PWI, but do you have anything that stands out with him?
Kurt Angle is still a very good friend of mine to this day. Believe it or not, Chris, when he did his first independent show, I was at the airport to pick him up.
Wow. What cup was that? Northeast or
It
no?
was with Northeast. It
Nice.
was actually coming to Bristol Central High School, my high
Yeah.
school, and I was the first one there. And believe it, he had not done indies, so
Mm.
he was with TNA at the time. My name was easy for him to remember. Took him to the gym, took him to the tanning salon, and man, we got to know each other very well to the point where I hurt my neck really bad in 2018. I was had a few too many Bud Light Limes at a child's birthday party, and I saw that they had a new trampoline, and went to do a backflip. I got three-quarters of the way over, and
Yeah.
everything crunched in my neck, and I lost all feeling in my left arm. It was different than anything else I'd ever experienced, and I had the spine problems at this point, and I called Kurt and in a panic, and what do I do? What do I do? And he's like, "Get me your MRI. I'm going to get it to my surgeon, Dr. Joe, out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania." And sure enough, within 45 minutes of sending it to Kurt, I had Dr. Joe on the phone
Wow.
telling me how he would fix me. Like my insurance wanted me to be fused, which would have locked me into place. It's well documented that Kurt Angle, through his injuries, his neck injuries, had a alternative surgery, and Dr. Joe's the one who did it. He does a lot of work on wrestlers. He does a lot of work on mixed martial artists, get you back in the game without locking you into place. Um, my insurance wouldn't cover the surgery. I had three options: get the surgery my insurance would cover, which was the fusion. Number
Yep.
two, try to wait it out because my wife insurance was going to pay for it, but I had to wait for the open enrollment period. You can't
Yeah.
just hop on, and you got so much time before the feeling doesn't come back, or pay cash.
Mm.
Chris, I paid cash for this surgery. Now, they wanted to bill my insurance, 100+ thousand dollars. Now, when you're paying cash, it's different in the medical world.
Okay.
Kurt helped me negotiate. It was a negotiation. I negotiated with the surgeon. He did it. I can't say what he did it for, but he
Yeah.
did it for all in. Now I'm talking about the operating room,
Mm.
the anesthesiologist, the surgeon himself, $15,000.
Wow.
$15,000. That's the real cost. Yet we're billing insurance companies,
Yeah.
and Kurt checked on me every day.
Nice.
And to this day, my neck is pain free, and I owe that to Kurt Angle. I
Wow.
just saw him 2 weeks ago in Newark, and his neck's hurting him, man. But he's just so happy to see me living my best life every time, and
Nice.
amazing human being.
Yeah. When you talk your career, you mentioned this earlier. There's something I gotta ask you. What was it like for you? I was watching it earlier today, wrestling a mayor.
Oh my goodness. So that was actually 2 years in the making. Like Northeast, Michael asked me to wrestle to go in. It was gonna be a tag team match. It was myself and Ariel versus Velvet Sky and Short Sleeve Samson.
Yeah.
It was in Torrington, Connecticut. And Michael's like, "Hey, can you just put the mayor in your corner? He's in the other room. Go talk to him." So I go in the other room, and I'm like, I see a couple kids, like, younger than me in there. And I'm like, I didn't see any mayor. He's like, he's in the room. And he was like, storms in the room. He's like, right there. And I'm like, oh, you're the mayor? Ryan Bingham. And so he cost me the match that year. This was 2007.
Mhm.
And then the following year, as something that was going to help Torrington Pal, I think it was, he decided he was going to team up and get into the ring. It was Ryan Bingham and Ron Zombie versus myself and the Torrington Executioner, who was Nick Barberri,
Yeah.
because you have to be very careful
Okay.
in a situation like this. I mean, you don't want the match to look awful, and you got to protect the mayor.
Hmm.
So he joined us. We had 2 hours with him at the Defiant Pro Wrestling School in Waterbury, and he came and he learned. We taught him just enough: lock up, headlock, Polish hammer, pick me up on your shoulders. He didn't need to know how to run the ropes. He didn't need to know how to bump. And it actually turned out to be an amazing match. Now, I remember Michael getting really on my case, like, make this look real. Do not, disrespect the business. And when I backed him in the corner, the one thing we didn't practice was the slap. And I said, here comes the slap. Ready? Boom. and I cracked him, Chris. I got him, and it rocked him for a second.
Yeah.
And the headline of the paper the next day said Mayer still feeling effects of wrestling match and talking about the handprint on his face to face. And
Wow.
but we caught up afterwards, and I mean he loved it.
Yeah.
He's and I loved it too. And it
Nice.
was one of I remember being at ESPN and someone come running to my desk saying that my name just hit the Associated Press.
Okay.
I had a friend come to me say, "Kurt, you're in the Associated Press feed," and it got picked up by newspapers everywhere that Kurt Adonis was going to wrestle a mayor. And we did television, we did radio promoting it, and it was a sold out crowd. Fantastic match. Booker T and AJ Styles was on that show too in the main event.
Nice.
Boy, I got a car, so I drove both of them.
Okay.
It was their first match ever together. Booker T, AJ Styles. It was good, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
And the next morning, I'm driving them to the airport, and Booker T just like ran down AJ. Like the whole car ride was smoking a joint, and it got to the point where I felt uncomfortable. I'm just like, I'm used to wrestling guys 6'6", and like you're too fast and slow. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh. And now you look today and AJ is just, the top of the top. But at the time, I think this was 2008, he was still in Impact Wrestling working his way up.
Nice. Wow. So wrestling a mayor, man, what does that mean to you? Obviously, you talk about the press and everyone eyes on you. You're at what would you say in your pro wrestling career you're at the peak?
It was 2007, 2008,
Nice.
and this was in 2008, man. I was feeling it. I had the confidence. It finally switched in my head to, where to slow down and getting this feedback from all the wrestlers. Like, you got to remember, back then, we didn't watch the matches right back. We didn't have
Yeah.
video cameras. Like, if you got to see the match a month later, you were fortunate. So having that invaluable feedback right then and there, and an opportunity the next night to capitalize on it, I mean, I was more fortunate than anybody else.
Yeah. So when you look at your pro wrestling career, you've done so much, but obviously all pro wrestlers eventually decide it's time to call in pro wrestling. So I'm curious for you, retiring in pro wrestling, how far up was this building up for?
Because I got hurt in 2008 really bad.
Towards the end of 2008?
September 2008.
Okay.
I was cooking, man. I was 500. I was having the match with the mayor, did the thing with Piper. I was the Power and Glory champion. I took a bad backdrop as Doink the Clown. Nobody wakes up saying today is a great day to screw the rest of my life up. But Chris, my life was never the same after that backdrop. I remember I was supposed to go out with Roddy Piper that night, and we did. And boy, did we drink a lot. And the pain was still there, so I knew I was in trouble. And it started a downfall in my life to the point where I couldn't walk. Now, my shoot job's at risk. So surgeons told me I had 2 herniated discs and disc degradation. It was just, they weren't there anymore. And I needed to stop. So I think I had 3 more matches. I canceled a lot of my indie bookings, and then I kept a match with Nunzio, a match with Hacksaw, and 2 with Brian Anthony, including my last match ever. And that was it. I'm like, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah. I could be wrong. This could be a mark for Kurt Adonis. Didn't like the week of your retirement, you do something with Flair?
I did. So it was actually so the Ric Flair thing is crazy because I'm bringing Ric Flair to my high school.
Insane.
Okay, he's coming to Bristol, Connecticut. Now, what's even crazier is my high school quote in my yearbook is, to be the man, you have to beat the man.
Wow.
And I also happen to work at ESPN, and Ric Flair is the biggest fan of ESPN, and he wanted to go see it.
Nice.
I got to bring Ric Flair on a private tour of ESPN, showing him everybody, everything. He comes, he sees the coach in the newsroom. I'd be very quiet. Sees the coach, no, sells it. I said, and then the coach just comes running over, and everything stops because Ric Flair's in the newsroom on a random Saturday. But what's funny is that weekend, so at the time, Ric Flair had just started taking indie bookings.
Okay.
He wasn't doing them, never had, never was. And he was doing it through High Spots. And he also had another agent that was booking him for other types of appearances. So Northeast had him on this date booked through High Spots. And then Big Time Wrestling was trying to get a date too with the other representative, and the two weren't talking to each other. So Ric Flair was actually double booked in Connecticut for two separate promotions
Mhm.
on the same day.
Wow.
Nightmare. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, there wasn't a lot of camaraderie with these two promotions, so it worked out where they would get Flair Friday in Danbury, we'd get him Saturday in Bristol, and to counteract that, Northeast threw me a retirement party. So even if we draw 70 people, it's 70 less people that are going there, and that's when they gave me the Hall of Fame, and I guess I got the Chris Benoit treatment now. So, but yes, children, I was the first inductee to the Northeast Wrestling Hall of Fame, and a nickel will get you a piece of gum. But I digress.
Yeah, so I'm curious for you. We talk about Hall of Fames being the first ever inductee, but also when you look at your career, being an inductee in the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, you see the lineage of that. For you, what did that mean? Obviously, in your career, you've done so much, but to get that must have felt cool.
What Joe Bruin does is awesome.
Yeah, I wish he brings back the Hall of Fame.
I mean, I think listen, Joe's always the first one to say never again, never again,
Yeah.
and he runs a successful event, and boom, he's got the itch again. Now he had offered me that when I retired, and I was influenced by Northeast not to accept that accolade, which hurt me.
Yeah.
Why can't I go up there? You're in my Hall of Fame. What do you need that for? Like, well, it sounds awesome. So we had to wait a few years, and it meant the world to me that Ron Zombie put me into the Hall of Fame. I went in with Mabel, who, again, we had the giggliest car rides, and like we were the odd couple when we went out. Like it was so much fun, and we all got to go in together. Sonny was there, Nikolai was there. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, you're a
It
legend.
means the world to me. It
You're a
means the
legend,
world. I
Kurt
see.
Adonis.
I don't think about that, man. I just wanted to be a good contributor, man. But Joe Bruin, what he does is fantastic, and I'm looking forward to his next convention.
Yeah. So when you look at your career, obviously we talk about winding down, but ESPN, I believe, were they covering your last events of pro wrestling, your last match?
They were. So,
Okay.
talk about timing.
Yeah.
ESPN was just about to do a behind the Bob Lee show, Outside the Lines piece on Vince McMahon.
Okay.
And they just wanted some B-roll because this was not a WWE. The WWE and ESPN did not have the relationship back in 2009 that they do today.
Yeah.
They didn't cover wrestling, and they, when they did, it was often in a negative light. So they were doing the show on Vince McMahon, and they needed B-roll, and they brought a 3-camera crew, and they got the B-roll during the show. But when it came to my last match, I mean, they did interviews during the match. They taped me behind the scenes. They did interviews with Jimmy Hart. My last match was Brian Anthony with Jimmy Hart versus me.
Mm-hmm.
And it couldn't have gone any better. It's my favorite bell-to-bell match was my last one. Ric Flair watched the entire match from the curtain. Wow. You can see his blonde hair sticking out. Brian Anthony was my hand-picked opponent. He was my, I wanted to lose clean to him, and I did. And then when it was time for me to wave goodbye, knocks me out with Jimmy Hart's megaphone. Now, Ric Flair was watching this. And later on, Brian got to work with Ric Flair.
Wow.
Bumping Flair, getting heat on Flair, and then Flair running a comeback, chop, chop, chop. I'm like, you want to talk about an amazing night? It didn't get bigger than that.
What happened with you and Brian Anthony?
So, Brian Anthony was my best friend in life. We did everything together, and we were always looking beyond wrestling. Like, me being involved with the conventions and being involved with producing and doing things behind the scenes. Like, it's more than just taking bumps. And, he knew that his punch card was coming up, and we were doing all of this stuff outside of it. But it came to a point where, and I just want to say, like, the only thing I'm guilty of with Northeast Wrestling was leaving. I left a very toxic environment. I I'm not saying anything that's out of bounds. Ask anybody who was there. I was spoken down to often and in front of everybody. And you overlook things like that because you're getting to wrestle and be part of these amazing things. I
Yeah.
have to push all that aside. But then I became public enemy number one when I left. And uh Brian, who was my last match, Brian, who I don't have kids. It was in my will, Chris, that everything I had, if I died, went to Brian.
Wow.
That's how close we were.
Yeah.
And when it came for him and he got the neck injury, and believe me, I'm the first one he calls because I
Yeah.
know neck injuries better than anybody. And, because we're brothers and I know more about him than anybody else and vice versa. He was made to choose by Northeast Wrestling, have the match or have Kurt present. All I wanted to do was sit in the crowd. And they put him in that terrible position where he had to choose the match over his friend. And Chris, it crushed me.
Yeah.
Crushed me.
Yeah.
And I spent all last summer, and I'm launching my own company. Again, something
Yeah.
that we could do together beyond, you taking bumps. And if you look at my promo pictures from like, it's the fakest smile because I'm so depressed inside. I had a loss personally with my family. Now I lost my best friend and everybody around him. They all just stopped talking to me.
Hmm.
I had no connection to wrestling whatsoever. It messed me up bad.
Hmm.
And you often hear about the people with the smiles hurting on the inside. That was me. I slept my entire summer away. I get up just waiting to take my nap. And eventually I reached out to Jared Ganem, the former Jaleel Salam, the former Paul Lombardi. Now he works with Tony Robbins, and
Hmm.
he has this program for men to maximize their potential that he has cultivated. And I seen the turnaround with him. So in my mind, Chris, I'm either dealing with the best worker out there or
Yeah.
somebody who truly knows their stuff.
Yeah.
And he just reached out to me one day just to say hi and share a story about the road, like, in the height of my depression. And I'm just like, bro, I need some help. And for 5 days, we worked together. And through guided meditation in his program, Chris, I was able to trace back all the roots of my anxiety, pain,
Wow.
hurt, how I define the characteristics that I had. I can't recommend this
Nice.
enough. And like, I hope that this, this is not a paid
Yeah.
endorsement.
Yeah.
It is 1 year later. And based on my intake form with him, I have checked every box of my objectives that I want to live in life.
Nice.
And I can't say enough. Thanks to Jared.
Yeah.
I believe Alex Hammerstone has also done this program and had
Nice.
like his life change. But man, it got me through it. So I was able to forgive Brian. I went back and forgive everybody who hurt me in my life.
Hmm.
And just start with a clear head. And so Brian and I just stopped talking. And it's been a year and a half, and we've made reconnected to at least start the conversations back and forth, which is the first step to healing. Look, life's too short.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, it crushed me, man. But what am I going to do? Stay down or move on?
Yeah.
So, I can happily report that we're talking again.
Nice.
The hurt will always be there. It's unfortunate that it came to that,
Hmm.
and I'm just glad that the two of us can the right words were said between both of us that we can forge this path forward and hopefully forge that strong relationship again.
Yeah. When you look at your career, I'm curious for this. You said two words that I was confused, but I'm curious to see what happened with Animal Planet.
Oh my gosh. So in 2011,
Okay.
my wife at the time, Marla, she worked with people who had social anxiety, and
Okay.
she did amazing work with them. And she got an email from a casting agency like, "Hey, do you know anybody who has fears of animals?" And Chris, I am petrified of bees. Childhood
Wow.
trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, petrified. We're like, run. Like, I mean, like, cower and run. And so I casted for the show. It was called My Extreme Animal Phobia.
Okay.
And sure enough, I got it.
Okay.
And the premise of the show was three strangers moving together in a house in Sacramento, California, and we all had different fears. And through exposure therapy, we would overcome our fears in 4 days or less.
What were the other fears they had, the other two?
So the other two castmates, Shelly and oh my gosh, I can't remember her name. Shelly had sharks, which was awesome because we got to do like all this behind the scenes stuff at like aquariums and like get
Nice.
really close with sharks.
Yeah.
Um, the other one was millipedes, not so exciting. But me, man, they threw me in the deep end with the bees. I had panic attacks galore
Hmm.
during the taping of this. Like, I mean, on the ground, it was rough. Like
Yeah.
putting me in those bee suits, bringing me over to the bees, having bees in my room. It was to the point where I'll never forget. It aired on 11/11/11, Veterans Day 2011. I got all the permission from ESPN to go and do this. And I didn't have anybody over to watch because I'm like, I don't know how bad I'm going to look in this. And
Yeah.
they they protected me, but in the last scene, I had bees in my hand, eating out of my hand. Like I could hear him in the IFB. Oh, he's a big wrestler. I think they casted me thinking, oh, he's a great worker.
Yeah.
I was the only castmate that took him up on the aftercare. See, I've read the contract I signed, and my fear's a lot better. But it aired. I'm like, oh, relief. 2 days later, my phone starts going off on my nightstand, like somebody's dead. I'm like, what? Like, put on E. You're going to be on Talk Soup. So they took my clip of me in the finale, all emotional, crying,
Yeah.
holding the bees, and Joe McHale just roasted me.
Wow.
I mean, roasted me and questioned my manhood. And I remember watching it, rewind the DVR because we had DVRs at the time,
Yeah. I've heard of
and
those. Yeah.
watched it again. And my wife just was belly laughing, giggling, and it's on my Facebook and Instagram. It is a fantastic clip. It was an honor to be roasted on TV,
Nice.
and something I never thought possible.
Yeah. So when you talked about that program and you said this past year, what a year it's been. We talk pro wrestling and you've done some great things. So I'm curious for you, what is like your first step you start doing with wrestling? What's your first involvement? Because I want to give you your flowers first. I watched a few days ago you did that interview. I think it was with Ryan Frost. And right before the interview, Ryan Frost called you a legend and everything. That's couldn't be more true.
I mean, I first and again, 98 was the first time I got in there, and I've circumvented generations. I
Mhm.
mean, like, there are, the wrestlers, I don't want to take Bull Dread's spot here, but
Yeah.
who've seen me wrestle when they were kids.
Yeah.
And just funny enough, when I was working with Richard Holiday on narcissistic behavior, he even said that, like, yeah, I saw you wrestle.
Nice.
And I mean, that is just, to me, fantastic, because I was never going to be the biggest, never going to be the strongest, but my goal was to always be the one that somebody remembered.
Hmm.
And in that case, if you see me perform either as a wrestler, as a referee, as an announcer, as a ring announcer, I'm over the top. I'm
Yeah.
trying to be, I don't want to be the same as everybody else. I want to be the first Kurt and whatever that is, because in Northeast, I was handcuffed.
Hmm.
Um, it was not about me, and I was told that very much. And like, the worst thing that could happen was the Kurt chants pissed him off more than anything. Talk over those. And like, so I did, and I never got that time to just soak in the adulation. But man, I am enjoying every second of it.
Nice. What was it like helping with WrestleCon? Even ring announcing for their show, right?
Yes, yes. So I got in with WrestleCon back in 2019 in New
Wow.
York City, just helping. Like, and here's the thing, I can do every job there.
Yeah.
And so now WrestleCon, Starcast, they'll bring me in to help organize the teams that work the signings. As a um, liaison, like if there's a user experience issue that needs to be escalated, I'm that point of contact. I'm getting talent to where they need to be, communicating with everybody, just trying to managing lines. Like,
Hmm.
we had a line from Mike Tyson that was over 1,000 people deep. I had six different sections. You can't just line them up straight.
Yeah.
You have to work within the facility, working with the facility, escalating any problems, if there's a medical emergency. So like, I literally am the one that can handle everything. If a line gets slowed up, I can jump in and move that line along.
Nice.
And I'm fortunate, big event. Tom Unger brings me in to help him do that as well. Conrad and Paragon bring me in for the Starcast events, and
Nice.
of course, Michael and High Spots for WrestleCon. It's
Yeah.
something I enjoy more than ever, and it's long hours,
Yeah.
especially with the wrestling. Like I remember there was one I did the WrestleCon show. Again, can do everything. Hey, why bring a ring announcer?
Yeah.
Kurt's right here,
Nice.
and so and I got to ring announce Butterbean versus oh my God, it was just one of the craziest experiences of my life. And I'm
Nice.
running in the back trying to get the production team to sync the clocks and stuff. So again, I'm not just there ring announcing. I'm
Yeah.
making sure your live stream and your event experience are running smoothly. And that is my new niche in life, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, I'm curious for you when you look at your career, you talk about Ric Flair, but to be there timekeeping for his last match, what did that mean for you?
I couldn't believe I was there.
Yeah. I just interviewed when this drops a few months ago, the referee who counted the final three, Dave Miller. He said the same thing.
How
Yeah.
how how did this happen? Like how I remember sitting there. Road Dogg gave me so to get. I mean, we were brought in. Myself and Brian Anthony were brought in to help run Starcast. It was
Hmm.
Starcast 5. I did everything Ric Flair. I was attached at his hip the entire weekend. Um, Conrad Thompson's contributions to wrestling. Just, I mean, I can't possibly how great of an individual he
Yeah.
is. Um, Invited us to the production meetings, and I just asked the question, who's the timekeeper? Well, I guess you are. And that's how it happened. And I sat there, and Road Dogg gave me a headset. He's like, you sit here with this headset until we tell you to leave. And I sat there with that headset
Yeah.
until it was time to leave. And I got to sit next to Conrad Thompson. Now, dude, when I was done and the last two through the curtain with myself and David Penzer, I get to where I changed, and now blocking my suitcase is The Undertaker, Bret Hart, Diamond Dallas Page, Kid Rock. Dude, I'm sitting there and I get yoked from behind, and I'm in a safe area. Turn around, like, who? It's Kid Rock. Like, how is this possible?
Yeah.
Surreal,
Yeah.
surreal, grateful. I will always have that memory of. I remember, don't mess this.
Yeah. I gotta ask you nowadays. I seen you make the announcement. I forgot when you made the announcement, but what is it like nowadays? And what is your involvement get involved with Fourth Rope nowadays?
So, so that came through Enzo actually in Vegas.
Nice.
I was obviously familiar with the Fourth Row product, but Enzo just said, "Hey, would you mind coming in and help me produce some promos?" So they were working with Anthem and the TNA
Hmm.
and to do the production part, but they wanted to get the pre-tapes done. So
Okay.
like, hey, I have a WrestleCon commitment till here. I'll shoot right over. And I remember their show didn't start till 1 a.m.
Hmm.
The Joey Janela Sabu match went long. We were supposed
Yeah.
to start at midnight. They were supposed to be out by 11. They went almost 90 minutes late.
Wow.
So I coordinated and just took over getting the entire fourth row crew up through security, work with the talent, get the show on the track, get the crowd into the building. That was the tough part because you can't start that show with half a crowd in there. Keeping the line informed. Um, Working I was in conversation with the truck, the referees, the timekeeper. um do we have eyes on, because again, it was people were just rolling in. Omos was there. I mean, like, we had so many people in the back I could just
Yeah.
barely move. And I remember I got to produce or help produce the segment between the Godfather and Joe Hendry and 10 the good girl train is what we were ended up
Yeah.
referring to the as, but getting to produce that because they weren't workers. So like,
Hmm.
you know, you can't just send 10. It was an amazing night. And Smoke Dizza and Enzo and the crew have welcomed me, and I'm getting ready to go there this week to help produce West Side Gun Day in
Nice.
Buffalo, New York. I'm gonna be there a couple nights, and they have huge aspirations and an incredible vision and the following to support it. So it's going to be very
Yeah.
exciting. If you haven't checked it out, check out Fourth Rope, because
Yeah.
what's better than three ropes, Chris?
I love it. I love it. I'm curious for you. You talk about huge aspirations, wrestling with character. Obviously, in pro wrestling, there's so many shows going on, but wrestling with character stands out. So I'm curious for you originally. What is the vision? Obviously, you talk about inspired by things like the Savannah Bananas and all these things, but what is your vision originally?
Family show.
Nice.
A show that a family can come together with their friends and enjoy together.
Yeah.
I've been around a very long time, and there's going to be someone that drops an F-bomb on your show or puts up a finger,
Yeah.
and like I saw it just all the time. No matter how many times you ask, you're still going to get it. And I'm like, no, that's it. I'm going to I love Walt Disney World. I work for the Walt Disney Company, Chris. I would go to Disney World 3, 4 times a year, oftentimes by myself, just to recharge,
Mhm.
like walk around at my own pace, people watch. I wanted to bring the best of Disney and experience to wrestling with over-the-top characters that I fell in love with and add that twinkle of magic to it. And that's what this is. I mean, we have the incredible lighting. It's a story within a story within a story. Our interactive pre-show
Yeah.
helps set the stage and tell the story for about what you're going to see. Autographs are free. We encourage everyone to take pictures and get their autographs. And Chris, all the fans wear a name tag. We can address the
Nice.
fans by their name. And
Yeah.
it's just, if you look at the kids' faces and the parents' faces, like that's my favorite thing to go back and watch is like, when did we get them?
Mhm.
Because it's a lot of singing, it's dancing, it's booing, it's cheering, it's stuff that you haven't seen before. It's sound effects, it's visual effects, and all rolled up into a very concise and overproduced wrestling experience.
Nice. I'm curious for you, where does like your creative mindset come from? Because some of these wrestlers, obviously you have Jermaine Marbury as Swishberry of Milo Hot Frog, but then there's some characters like I forgot when you originally had Fancy Ryan Clancy on the shows. What is your Livia? Like, what is your vision with some of these?
Well, it starts with an idea. Like
Okay.
we wanted someone to portray a witch, an evil witch. So we worked with Scott up in Chaotic, and
Yeah.
he pointed us to Paris Van Dale.
Nice.
Perfect example. Again, and the idea is like there's so many good wrestlers out there, Chris, and you know that
Yeah.
you talk to them every week,
Yeah.
but you see a lot of them on the same shows.
For sure.
So we want to be different clowns, different circus. So to take Doc Heresy and make him Bully Heresy, to take Milo Hot Frog and Swish Marbury and Lucas Chase as Armada, and you take Livia and you make her Astra Ray, and it's being creative. And my favorite is Mortar, Rat Round.
Yeah.
Mortar spelled backwards. He is the best. I mean, watching him, he's capable of 5-star matches with anybody, but watching him sell like a body slam for like 30 seconds, screaming at the top of his lungs, rolling, 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 speaking in a gibberish language, like it is hilarious. And it just goes to show his range as a performer, best worker in the indies today.
Nice. I love it. So I'm curious for you nowadays when you talk pro wrestling. I've got to have the pleasure to be on the call with you for commentary. You commentate Fight Life, numerous indies, you're ringing outs. Do you have any goals nowadays with pro wrestling or just contribute wherever you could?
Contribute anywhere I could until we find that contribution point where I can do it full time. That's the
Nice.
goal. I mean,
Nice.
I resigned from ESPN the same day as Northeast Wrestling.
Okay.
I got hurt with that backdrop. I spent 13 years in chronic pain. Chris, I had high risk spine surgery 4 years ago. I'm pain free today.
Nice.
I have a second chance at life. I choose not to have anybody yell at me. How many times I've been yelled at since I became my own free agent?
None?
Holding strong at zero.
Wow.
Holding strong at zero. And I've had the opportunity to work with Fight Factory, Awesome Championship Wrestling, VST, who were the first ones to book me, and Richard Holliday's Narcissistic Behavior. And it's just getting better and better. And
Yeah.
I just want to be that guy that can contribute, that can do 6 jobs. I want to be known as, hey, we need Kurt here
Yeah.
because he can do anything.
Nice. When you look at your career, I'm curious, you've done a lot of travel with wrestling. Do you have a favorite venue you performed at?
Oh man, I mean, always the MJ Center. MJN Center is going to be the best. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just something about that building, watching it as a kid, being
Mhm.
there. Bethany Town Hall was always awesome.
Nice.
Bristol Central High School. We had 5 shows there. I worked with, that was my high school, and we were able to do fundraisers every year for the senior graduation party. I love a good crowd and energetic fans, and those buildings always provided them.
Nice. When you look at your career, Kurt Adonis, who are your biggest mentors? We talk about Nick Barberri, but who else is up there?
So I was fortunate enough to come under the guidance of Nick Barberri, Tim McNeely. They were the ones that when I was just starting out, they took care of the tabs. They bought the drinks. I was later able to go on and do that. I became that person. And honestly, those 2 individuals, Ron Zombie's another one. Ron took me under my wing. My first match, my opponent beat the piss out of me. I mean, I understand getting a little in there, but he was dangerous and rough, and it was Ron, Curtis Slam Dog, and the Mercenary that stood up for me, and we've been lifelong friends since. So, wow. Ron Zombie is certainly one of those individuals that he doesn't get the he deserves more credit because he's been around longer than any of us.
Yeah. I did this last year. It was a huge success. So when this drops, the next day is going to be Thanksgiving. And if you know pro wrestling, Chris Van Vliet has the best wrestling podcast around. He ends every interview with 3 things that you're grateful for. So Kurt Adonis, I'm curious for you. What are 3 things that you're grateful for?
Man, that is a fantastic question. And I'm going to go with the 3 things that pop into my head first. 1, being pain-free.
Nice.
It was very rough living all of those years in such chronic pain. 2, being able to reestablish myself and to build a new professional network. I will always, anybody I've ever encountered, I hope I had a chance to add to your day with a smile or a compliment or something along those lines. And finally, Ashley, my girlfriend partner, her and her kids have just added so much to my life that I didn't think I needed.
Nice.
And it's been such a welcoming experience to my life. I'm living my best life, man. I'm 46 years old. When I got hurt, I was 28. I thought my best days were behind me. Today, they haven't happened yet, man, and I can't wait to see what's next to come.
Yeah. Well, Kurt, I say it all the time. We talk often. You're one of my favorite people in pro wrestling. I want to thank you for doing this. However, every interview of Best for Business has ended the same. So the day you decide it's all done with pro wrestling, which isn't happening anytime soon, but the day you decide it's all done, what do you want Kurt Adonis' legacy in pro wrestling to be?
Wow, that's a good question. I'm going first thing that pops into my head.
Yeah.
Good hand.
Nice.
Contributor.
Yeah.
Someone who gave more than he received. Helpful.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be known as. And I'm fortunate. I work with Mario Mancini and Paul Roma down at the PAPW Academy as much as I can and get to work with the next generation. And if I could help anybody not make the same mistakes I did, or help someone realize, through a different lens what the problem may be, or advise anybody on how to be a better version of yourself, man, I want to be the first one to stand up and fulfill that role, man. I'm fortunate. I had that with Nick and Tim, and I want to get back on it.
Nice. Well, Kurt, I say it all the time, man. Thank you for everything, and thank you for doing this episode 100, man. I appreciate you.
100, man. Congratulations.
Thank
I feel like I owe you a $20 copay for the hour we just spent together. But seriously, Chris, congratulations.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what's next for you after 100 episodes, man. To 100 more.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Kurt, for doing this, and thank everybody for watching this episode. This was Best for Business.
Thank you for watching this episode of Best for Business. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, because this is Best for Business.